Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. He opened the little red box with a grin like he'd just won the lottery. I stood there, sweaty palms, weak knees, my heart drumming in my ears, holding a plastic bag with the engagement ring I bought her 2 years ago. I didn't plan to crash their dinner. I didn't even know where they'd be. But when I saw them through the window, sitting by the candlelight like they'd never lied to anyone, I knew I couldn't walk past. I walked straight in. She looked up just as I reached their table. Her face dropped like a glass hitting tile. His hands were still frozen over the open box. 2 champagne flutes, 1 nervous smile, 1 devastated silence. I didn't say anything clever. I didn't raise my voice. I just pulled out the ring she'd once cried over, the one she returned to me in a shoebox next to my toothbrush, and set it gently beside his. The contrast was absurd. His was new, pristine, expensive. Mine was scratched, dull, and real. She whispered my name, just once. It sounded wrong coming from her now. I figured, I said, barely above a whisper, you might need a reminder of who you used to be. He blinked at me like I was a street magician pulling doves from my sleeves. I could see the confusion morph into fear, not of me, but of what she hadn't told him yet. And that's when I dropped the letter. 1 page, folded 3 ways, her handwriting, 8 months old. It ended with, "No matter what happens, I'll always come back to you." She had written it the same night she slept with me, the same weekend she started dating him. He stared at it for a second too long before pushing the box away and asking her a single question. I didn't stay to hear the answer, but what happened after I left that restaurant? What she did next? It wasn't a breakdown, it wasn't regret, it was something worse, something unbelievable. And that's where this story really begins. I didn't go home right after the restaurant. I wandered. No destination, no real sense of direction. Just streets I didn't recognize and thoughts I didn't want. At some point, I found myself in a parking garage, sitting in my car, staring at the glove compartment like it might give me answers. There was still a piece of her scarf wedged between the seat and the console. She must have dropped it weeks ago. I didn't touch it. I didn't throw it out. I just stared at it, feeling like I was trapped in someone else's memory. By midnight, I finally drove back to our apartment. Well, my apartment now. Her key had been deactivated. That was the first thing I did after I left the ring on their table. It wasn't some dramatic power move. I just couldn't bear the thought of her walking in like nothing had changed. I needed space. I needed silence. When I opened the door, it hit me how loud her absence was. The empty hanger where her coat used to be. The missing toothbrush. The faint smell of her shampoo still lingering in the bathroom. She hadn't taken everything, just enough to remind me she was gone. But what struck me most was what she did leave behind, her journal. Now, I know what you're thinking. I shouldn't have opened it. And maybe you're right, but curiosity is cruel. The cover was worn leather, the kind that creases like old skin. She used to write in it at night when she couldn't sleep. She said it helped her organize the noise. I opened it to the middle. The first thing I saw was a sketch of a house. Our dream house. 2 stories. Garden in the back. She'd drawn little stick figures in the yard. One had my initials. The next page, a to-do list for leaving me. I'm not joking, it was titled IFILEAVEM. Bullet points, things like return his hoodie, take mom's old suitcase, do it on a Friday so he can be alone after. Cold, calculated. Like she was planning a vacation, not the destruction of the man who trusted her with his whole future. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just closed the journal and sat with the realization that I hadn't lost someone impulsively. I'd been quietly erased, 1 step at a time. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because I couldn't sleep in our bed, but because I didn't want to. The real twist, though, that wasn't even the last time I saw her. It was 3 days after the restaurant when she knocked on my door. Not called, not texted, just knocked. Like we were neighbors, like she hadn't shattered everything and sat smiling across from a man who wasn't me. I almost didn't answer. I stood behind the door for at least a full minute, heart hammering, staring at her blurry outline through the frosted glass. Part of me hoped she'd give up and walk away. Another part wanted to hear whatever pathetic excuse she had left in her. When I finally opened the door, she was holding coffee, my favorite. Same order, same brand, like muscle memory. She didn't say anything right away, just stood there, biting the inside of her cheek, blinking too much. That fake politeness people wear when they're about to ruin your day again. I didn't let her in. I leaned against the frame and waited. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Do what? Hand you the ring? The letter? Or make your little public fairy tale unravel?" She continued, "You humiliated me?" I laughed. I couldn't help it. Not the bitter, dramatic laugh. Just a dry, short one, because it was honestly the most ridiculous thing I'd heard in years. "You were proposing to him," I said. "Wasn't that what you wanted?" She flinched. A real one. I saw her mask crack just slightly. Then she looked at me like I was the villain, like I had trespassed on her story. I asked her why she came. "I didn't know he'd do that," she whispered. Turns out, after I left the ring and letter, her new guy didn't propose. He closed the box. He asked for space, told her he needed to know what else she hadn't told him. The letter wrecked her story, the one where she was a victim of a dead relationship. And the ring? That just made her look like someone who collected men like souvenirs. She asked if we could talk. I said no. She asked if I still had the scarf she left behind. I said maybe. She said she missed who I used to be. That part got me, because I missed him too, the version of me before I second-guessed everything, before I learned that love could be so quiet when it disappears, you almost don't hear it go. But I didn't tell her that. Instead, I closed the door, slowly, deliberately. She didn't knock again. I thought that was the end of it. But I was wrong. Because the next morning, I woke up to 137 unread messages and a video that made me question whether this betrayal went even deeper than I imagined. I didn't even notice the messages at first. I was halfway through brushing my teeth when my phone started vibrating non-stop on the counter. At first, I figured it was a group chat, people sharing memes or making weekend plans. But when I wiped my mouth and glanced at the screen, I saw her name. Over and over and over again. Texts, missed calls, even a voice message she tried deleting after sending. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. Not guilty conscience wrong, more like damage control wrong. But nothing prepared me for the file at the bottom of the list. A video. Just labeled, "Please delete this." Curiosity might be a curse, but once you've been lied to by someone you loved, suspicion becomes second nature. I opened it, half expecting something stupid, maybe a selfie video she meant to send to her new guy. Instead, I saw a living room I didn't recognize. Cheap floor lamp, beige couch, a wall-mounted TV playing something low in the background, and in the center of the frame, her. And him, her new boyfriend. At first it was just them talking, but the camera was clearly hidden. Bad angle, low audio, like someone had placed it under a table or behind a plant. But I could still hear enough, and what I heard made my knees go cold. He was confronting her, not about me, about another man. Apparently, I wasn't the first she overlapped. She'd done this before, in a different city, with a different guy who'd also thought he was the one. This new boyfriend, Carter or Carson, something like that, had just found out. She had told him she was healing from a toxic ex when they met. That was her line, and it worked. It always worked, until someone dug too deep. What shocked me most wasn't that she lied again. It was how casually she handled it. She didn't cry, she didn't deny it. She just said, "I needed a bridge." A bridge. Like people were nothing more than stepping stones to her next thrill. No remorse, no shame, just pure calculation. By the end of the video, he stood up, said, "You're broken," and walked out. She didn't even try to stop him, just sat there, chewing the inside of her cheek, then glanced toward the hidden camera and whispered, "I told you not to record this." So, the question burning in my brain, who filmed it, and why was it sent to me? That answer came exactly 4 hours later, through a knock on my door, this time from someone I hadn't seen in over 2 years, her sister. I hadn't seen Mallory, Sienna's sister, since their mom's birthday party almost 2 years ago. Back then she was quiet, observant, the type who spoke in carefully measured sentences and left the chaos to everyone else. So, when I opened my front door and saw her standing there in jeans and a windbreaker, holding a USB drive and looking like she hadn't slept, I didn't know what to say. She didn't hug me, didn't ask if it was a good time, just said, "I need to show you something before she erases it." I let her in. We sat on the floor, not even bothering with the couch, and she plugged the USB into my laptop, like it was a bomb she had been carrying for too long. And in a way, it was. She said she hadn't spoken to Sienna in 3 weeks, not since she found out about the plan. I had no idea what she meant. Mallory took a breath and told me everything, piece by piece, like she'd been rehearsing the speech but still didn't know how to soften the edges. Apparently, Sienna hadn't just drifted into her new relationship. She had orchestrated it for months. She'd been lining things up with Carson while still living with me, scheduling meetups under fake work events, manipulating friends into covering for her, even asking Mallory to store a suitcase in case of emergency. The emergency was me finding out, but here's where it turned dark. The video I got, Mallory filmed it. She said she did it after realizing Sienna wasn't just leaving me, she was using me for money, for stability, for the image of a sweet, dependable fiancée while she experimented with her real self on the side. Mallory told me Sienna had taken out a private loan in both our names 6 months ago, forged my digital signature. I didn't even know it existed. She used it to pay for a silent retreat in Arizona. A transformational getaway, she told me, was sponsored by her company. I felt sick. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was fraud, and I had no idea how deep it went. Mallory didn't want anything from me. She wasn't there to stir drama. She said she just didn't want to be part of the lie anymore. Before leaving, she handed me one last thing, a flash drive labeled Backups 2019 to 2023. You'll want to see the older ones, she said, especially the one from Valentine's Day 2 years ago. That's when she decided what? I didn't ask. I just nodded. My hands were shaking too hard to type. After she left, I sat alone for hours. The sun went down. The room got cold. I didn't move. That flash drive sat beside me like a truth grenade I didn't have the strength to pull the pin on. And just when I thought I couldn't take another blow, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in over a decade. Nate, my former best friend. The man I hadn't spoken to since the week Sienna and I got engaged. And suddenly, I knew. This story wasn't even halfway over. At first, I stared at his name on the screen like it was some kind of glitch. Nate Harper. It had been over 10 years since we'd spoken, and even longer since I'd seen him in person. Our friendship ended fast and ugly, burned out by something we never talked about again. But there he was, just there. No, hey man, no, long time, just 5 words. You need to call me. I sat on it for a full day. I didn't answer. I didn't text back. I wasn't ready to dig up that part of my life, not with everything else unraveling at light speed. But that flash drive Mallory left on my table had been sitting like a weight on my chest. And eventually, I gave in. I plugged it in. There were dozens of files, recordings, screenshots, old photos, even spreadsheets titled with Sienna's initials and dates. But the one that stopped me cold? V-Day 21. Recording. I almost didn't open it. I think part of me already knew what I'd hear. And I was right. The video was grainy, recorded from a phone propped on a desk, but the voices were clear. It was Sienna, and Nate, sitting in what looked like a hotel room. She was laughing about something he said. Then, in the middle of that laughter, she said something that sliced through me like a hot blade. He thinks I'm out buying him chocolates. Then more laughter. His. My stomach dropped. I scrubbed through the rest. They joked. They talked about me. They talked about how easy it was to keep the lie going. She said, I'm not marrying him because I love him. I'm marrying him because he's safe. Nate just nodded, like that was normal, like betraying your best friend was just whatever. That's when I realized why he was texting now. He knew I'd seen it, and suddenly everything from back then came flooding in. How Nate vanished the week after our engagement. How Sienna made up some excuse about him needing space. How she insisted I not try to reach out, said it would only make things worse. How I believed her, like a fool. She was already building the walls to keep me isolated, and I helped her stack every brick. I finally called him. He answered on the second ring. His voice was hollow, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. I messed up, man, he said. I've been trying to tell you for years. She wouldn't let me. She made threats about my job, about your reputation. I hung up, not because I didn't want answers, but because for the first time in weeks, I didn't need more lies dressed up as regrets. I needed something real, So I did the one thing I hadn't done since this started. I called my lawyer, and that's when the real reckoning began. The lawyer's office was cold, too clean, like even the air had been sanitized. I hadn't seen Marla since she helped me with a work contract 2 years ago, but when she asked why I was back, I didn't give her the whole story. I just slid the flash drive across the table and said, "I think I've been played." She plugged it in without a word. I watched her face tighten with every click, her fingers freezing over certain files longer than others. When she finally turned to me, she didn't even blink. "We need to run a financial sweep." It started with my credit report. I expected to find the loan Mallory mentioned, but there were 4. One for the silent retreat, one for what looked like an interior design course she never attended, another in both our names tied to a wellness coaching program she had apparently been offering under a fake business name. And then the worst, an open joint line of credit used for multiple luxury hotel stays, some dating back to the exact weekends she told me she was visiting her sick aunt. Marla looked at me like I'd walked into traffic willingly. "You need to freeze everything tied to your name now." While she made the calls, I sat there in a daze, doing the math. Thousands of dollars gone under the radar because I trusted her with the passwords. Trusted her when she said she was handling things. She had slowly siphoned pieces of my life, one careful transaction at a time. And I let her. That night, I changed every password, bank accounts, emails, insurance. I even reset my Netflix login just to feel some control over anything. I went through old receipts, texts, photos, looking for any clue I had missed. And then I found the draft. It was buried in my email drafts folder, a resignation letter, written under my name, addressed to my boss, typed and saved 6 months ago. The tone was professional, but the message was clear. I was stepping down. It even had a forged e-signature at the bottom. I stared at the screen for a full 10 minutes, unable to move. Why would she write this? Why save it? And then it hit me. If I had lost my job, if I had voluntarily resigned, my severance and insurance benefits would have shifted entirely into her hands under our joint agreements. She wasn't just preparing to leave me. She was preparing to strip me clean and make it look like I'd handed it all over willingly. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I kept walking from room to room, flicking on lights I didn't need, double-checking locks, refreshing my accounts every 15 minutes like they might suddenly disappear. I felt hunted, like my life had been turned into a story someone else was writing behind my back. And just when I thought she was done, I got a letter in the mail the next morning, no return address, just one sentence inside. I never meant for it to go this far, but by then it had already gone too far. I didn't call her. I didn't reply to the letter. I didn't send some final message to make her feel guilty or drag out the drama. After everything, after the lies, the fake businesses, the hidden accounts, the betrayal that spanned not just one relationship, but 2, there was only one thing left to do. Let it go. Marla helped me file the necessary reports. We froze the fraudulent accounts, documented the forged signature, and initiated a legal separation of assets. It wasn't easy, it wasn't fast, but it was clean. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted distance. Then, about a month later, something strange happened. I started waking up without checking my phone. I stopped walking through rooms like they were full of ghosts. I stopped flinching at old pictures or rereading emails for clues. Slowly, so slowly I didn't notice it at first, I started to feel like myself again. Or maybe for the first time. I adopted a dog. Her name's Cricket. She barks at her own reflection and tries to catch raindrops with her mouth. She has no idea who Sienna is, no idea what a loan is or why someone would fake a resignation letter. All she knows is I'm her person, and I feed her twice a day and laugh when she slides across the kitchen floor. It's stupid, but it feels like healing. I also reconnected with people I pushed away during that relationship, my brother, an old friend from high school, even Nate eventually. He showed up in person, apologized like he meant it, and said he hadn't recognized who he became when he let her manipulate him. I told him I couldn't forget, but maybe one day I'd forgive, and surprisingly, I meant it. As for Sienna, last I heard, she tried launching another coaching brand in another state. I didn't follow up. I don't care if it succeeded or collapsed. That chapter's closed. The funny thing is, after all of it, the moment that sticks with me most wasn't dramatic. It was simple. I was walking home from the store, just like the day I first saw her cheating, and I passed the exact same cafe where I left the ring. It was raining, and a couple was sitting in our old spot, laughing, alive, in love. And I felt nothing. No ache, no bitterness, just peace. Sometimes healing doesn't look like some big epiphany or cinematic confrontation. Sometimes it's walking past a memory and realizing it doesn't own you anymore. I'm okay now, better even, and I'm still learning how to be someone who doesn't apologize for expecting honesty. Someone who knows that being safe doesn't make you disposable. So, yeah, I returned the ring while she was with her new guy. But what happened next? I finally got my life back. That's the end of the story. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. Now it's your turn. Have you ever ignored a red flag that later blew up into something bigger? What happened? Drop your story in the comments. We want to hear from you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that it really does get better.